Hey, it's Jordan with Status Quo here at St. Lucy's Church, Newark, New Jersey. Here with Anthony Diaz. You're with the Newark Water Coalition. I've enjoyed your Facebook videos and activism. So behind us, they're unloading a massive water truck here at the water distribution. And you've been not only dealing with the logistics, but also kind of fighting the city, the state a little bit. From your words, I'm seeing a little remnants of what I saw in Flint. The city kind of knew about this before they told you residents. Now they're thrown out. Everything's dandy with a filter. Talk to me about what's fact versus fiction, because to me, I know that these filters do not stop all lead. Most residents aren't even getting enough bottled water. Many have been turned away. What are you guys experiencing?
There's a lot of moving pieces to that. So first, the city was only giving out 2 cases of water every week. They went to 4 cases every 2 weeks. Now on Tuesday, they're going to stop water distribution completely because they say, hey, the filters work, even though they have a 3% failure rate. So, you look at those numbers and you're like, oh, what's 3%? But 3% of 40,000 is a lot. It's a big number. It's too much to gamble on someone's life. But we see that's what the city's doing. So we're not going to slow down. We're actually ramping up our water distribution. We're expanded to 1 church already, and we're going to try to do 2 more by next week. So as long as people keep donating water, we're going to still give it out. I think the other thing to remember is the city is like, hey, we've been active since 2017, but that's not true. They haven't alerted the people until 2018. And the mayor knew about this since, I would say, January or February of 2018. So it's not like it's a new problem. It's not like, it's his fault. But the thing is, the problem is here. It's at his doorstep, and he's not being a leader. He's not stepping up to the plate. He's making excuses for everybody. And one of the things, he wants to, break this connection between Flint, but he's using the same playbook. And it's a problem because resources are not making it into the hands of the people. And that's what we really care about.
I should also toss in, it goes before 2017. Oh, yeah. They found lead in schools when Cory Booker was mayor. Yeah, and some of these pipes, by the way, in Newark, from the 19th century, the 1800s, some of these service lines that carry the water. So another thing that they don't mention, because a lot of this is cherry-picked science, the water filters that they've given to Flint, to East Chicago, Indiana, to other places we've been, they might stop lead, but they breed bacteria, and they go bad quickly. And a lot of the residents don't know how to put them on properly. So you're basically, like you said, gambling with people's lives when the filters go bad. If the lead is over a certain limit, the filters go bad in hot water, and it could breed bacteria. Yeah, so one of the things is people are so focused on the lead, they're not focused on anything else. And that's another problem, because we know if you look at the EPA or the DEP report, there's so many contaminants in the water itself, but lead is the hot button issue. Lead is what people focus on. But we just want to provide clean water. We know bottled water is not sustainable, it's not the answer, but it definitely helps people rather than them having nothing. And we feel like that's what the city does. We want people to err on the side of caution. We tell people all the time, unless you have a result from a science lab saying that you don't have lead in your home, don't assume that you're safe. That's not the way to go about this. And also talk about the actual water testing, because we found in Flint in particular that the state was basically cooking the numbers they were flushing residents' lines right before testing, this and that. So I'm not trying to fearmonger, but how do you even know the testing that they're putting out is credible if they're not testing the entire city and they are flushing the lines before a lot of the testing? And we've seen that. We've seen that here in Newark. We've seen the city has come out with soiled bottle samples to take clean water samples. They'll tell you to flush your water before they take the sample. They have residents have been backed up for 3 months, still haven't seen a result. So the city is like, oh, we're doing everything it can, but they're not. And that's the biggest thing. That's they don't execute on a high level. They have these programs in place. The programs are not making it to the people. And it's for the media out there, they're really focusing on this narrative of oh, what about the families? But what about, could this have been prevented? How did this happen? Why did this happen? Why does this happen in our communities? Why does it happen under this kind of leadership?
So
Our community, meaning Newark, like Flint, like many other, majority African American, impoverished.
yeah, black and brown communities. And oftentimes I say, if we can't get this right, if we can't get clean water right, how do you get unemployment? How do you get crime right? How do you get education right? There's so many problems here. And to me, this is a simple thing. It's 2019. We have the most knowledge available in any point in humanity. And we have to get bottled water to people? That doesn't make any sense.
And we're talking about the city, but you got a Democratic governor, Phil Murphy, done some good things in some areas, but why is the city cutting off water on Tuesday? And why isn't the state stepping in? As far as I'm concerned, like in Flint, until all of those pipes are changed, why is it on the city or the state to provide bottled water?
And that's what we see. So for us, one of the comments I made about this situation is, again, you're assuming that everybody has a filter. Not everybody has a filter. Two, you're assuming that everyone who went to a distribution site knows about this problem. Still, that's not the case. Three, the education is not being done. And we agree with you as well. It's like, don't cut this program off, expand it, give people what they want. And like for us, this is what, a $3 case of water? You're telling me the city can't afford that? In January, most of the city officials gave themselves a $50,000 raise. So when they talk about money, I'm like, no, that's like absurd to me. It's like you're playing these games over a $3 case, over a $30 filter, when you're harming generations here in the city of Newark. We're never going to be the same.
Well, I'm from New York, so I don't know Jersey that well, but I could venture to guess if this happened 20 minutes down the road in Livingston, they would not be cutting off bottled water. Probably it wouldn't have happened in the first place, but Livingston, Montclair, some of these wealthier, predominantly white areas, they wouldn't be nickel and diming it.
Yeah, I think that's true too. And I also, what I think is there is a different way that those city officials talk to their populace. They don't sermonize, they don't fluff the issues. They're like, hey, here's the problem, this is what it is, we're gonna fix it. Here it's like, oh, let me, get up there, let me preach, let me talk about how there's outsiders coming in and things like that. But it's what burns me up is like, again, resources are pouring into this city, give them to the people. Don't hoard them, don't minimize this issue at all. Make sure that everyone's being safe. Make sure everyone's erring on the side of caution. And we're not seeing that from the city. And that's the biggest issue.
What's interesting to me, the mayor, actually, I think he went on Democracy Now! He said that the NRDC is part of the bourgeoisie. He's not so friendly to the activists. He said, yeah, I'll talk to anyone, but you guys have shown, you've been reaching out to his office since September, no response. By the way, that NRDC, who's part of the bourgeoisie, sued the state of Michigan and is responsible for getting $97 million to Flint to change those service lines. So I don't know about that. But what has been the communication? Because it seems like the mayor on TV programs is saying, I'll talk to anyone, but they just kicked you out. They just kicked you and other activists out of a meeting about the water.
Yeah, so we went to the state of the city and we tried to remain calm. We tried to listen. But again, it was all nonsense. It was him defending his policies. And so we got a little upset. We started calling him out. And then he says, I'll meet. And I'm like, no, we've talked to your office for a month. When I call City Hall, they know who I am. And they'll hang up or they'll try to sidestep me and do all these other things. So for us, it's very disingenuous when he says he'll meet, because we're like, we can help you. We're doing the work. We're filling in the gaps where you're falling short. Maybe you don't know that your programs are falling short, but he doesn't want to hear it. It's funny, we met with Cory Booker's staff. We met with Congressman Donald Payne. And I've had several interactions with Baraka before. And it's all these politicians are so thin-skinned that they can't handle criticism. It's like, I'm doing the best I can. No, you're not. If you were doing the best I can, I wouldn't exist. These volunteers wouldn't be here trying to stack this room up full of water. If they were doing everything the right way, it's like, then why? Why are we here? Why are we servicing 300 families a week? Why are we expanding to different churches? They're not doing everything they can. They're not doing the right thing. And that bourgeoisie argument, because he likes to pretend to be this fake radical, when you make over $130,000 a year, you're not part of the proletariat anymore. You're not part of the working class. When you throw on your suits and you meet with these developers and you talk about giving $5 billion to Amazon, it's a wrap for you. You don't have any commonalities with us anymore. When you're out here nickel and diming over bottles of water, you don't care about our people. You know, all skin folk and kinfolk. And that's what it is.
I want to ask you, because an untold story, particularly in Flint and other places, when there's a disaster like this, there's dollars to be made for the capitalists. So they just put out a loan for these service lines, and there's bonds being issued by Essex County to basically get money up front to change the service lines. But who's going to end up be paying for these bonds? Who's going to end up paying for the bonds that went out to change the service lines in Newark? Because in Flint, water prices have gone through the roof, water rates, taxes go up to pay for the bonds. So I don't know who the bondholders are, but it looks like there's some capitalists that are going to make money off this.
There are definitely going to be some people that make money off of this. What we've seen is even people with our that have tried to reach out to our organizations, they're like, hey, would you like to endorse our filters? And we're like, dude, you're trying to make money off a crisis? This is crazy. You should be giving these filters for free. We don't believe in any of that as well. We know that Essex County owns the bond, and this is another way that the county can, or the city of Newark can be beholden to the county. And what you see is a lot of like moving pieces in terms of the dynamics of the democratic political machine in Newark, in the county, in the state. That's why Governor Murphy hasn't declared a state of emergency. That's why Roz will defend him. That's why, you know, Joey D rushed to his aid, because he knows that there's some monetary gain in this. People don't do things at that level out of the kindness of their heart. Whereas us, the true volunteers, the activists, we do things because we see injustice and we know we have to err on the side of caution and be right. You know, what's right is right.
And what about, I think I know the answer, but I have to ask. Forget the Republican Party, they don't care. You hearing anything for the Democratic Party nationally?
No, they just had a convention in Atlantic City. And again, it's like, because this issue is so political, you have nonprofit organizations that are unwilling to touch this. You have NGOs that are unwilling to touch this. So a lot of people are like, well, why don't you go 501(c)(3)? And we're like, what has the 501(c)(3) infrastructure done for us here? They jumped on the bandwagon after the EPA got involved. We've been organizing around this issue for the last 10 months. When no one was, cared about this issue, the Newark Water Coalition was giving out filters. When no one cared to show up to a meeting, we were hosting teach-ins. When no one wanted to, do these water distributions, we were doing it. So it burns me up that you have all these people with resources that can do great things, but are unwilling to do it.
Last question. We see in a lot of communities, once the truth gets out that you guys have been exposed to this poison, people start to wonder, well, maybe that's why my kid's been acting this way. Maybe that's why my sister or my brother-in-law had a cancer at an earlier age with no family history. Are you guys seeing any health issues here? Is the community starting to wonder about issues that have popped up over the years? Could it be because of lead?
Yeah, so we have a lot of teachers in our organizations that have hey, there's been a recent uptick in IEPs, individual education programs. We've seen a lot of an uptick on kids with ADD or behavioral issues. When you look at the city of Newark and the homicide rate, the crime rate, and you're like, okay, is there a correlation between the lead that's been, in our system and the violence that's going on in the city? So people are starting to ask those questions. But again, I think, what I tell people is when you give an interview, bring those up. Because what we need is the world to start asking those questions. We need the country to start asking those questions. Because once they start putting pressure on the administration, they can't afford to lie anymore. They often tout these reports or these studies, but they don't have the evidence to back it up. And so anywhere else in the world, can you make a claim and not have the evidence to back it up? It's just upsetting.
And last question, when are you running for mayor?
I'm not going to run for mayor. A lot of people ask. I have considered it, but again, you get caught up into the electoral politics, and then what? I'll end up like him, and that's never going to be me. I have too much integrity.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.